Have you ever stood at a mountain you couldn't climb? Felt the burden of a dream so far away, your arms hurt just reaching for it? I have. We all have. That instant when the gap between who you are and who you want to be feels impossibly wide. But suppose I told you that this space, this painful space between aspiration and attainment, is not a penalty. It's a present, the most powerful present you'll ever find. Listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you today isn't merely about establishing objectives or attaining success. It's about something much deeper, something which took me years of tears, blood, and hours of sleepless nights to learn. To learn a truth so basic and so commonly ignored that it could very well turn everything you believed about striving for greatness on its head. A target is not always intended to be hit. Oftentimes, it exists merely as a point to shoot at. These aren't words that came to me in triumph. They arrived defeated, in agony, in those instances where the body yells stop, but something within moans go on. They arrived when I realized the real power doesn't lie in the finish line. It lies in the direction. Most people spend their lives crossing finish lines, gathering trophies to dust, cresting summits once touched, instantly feel empty. They confuse the target with the journey, the medal with the change, and in the process, they lose the most gorgeous thing about human potential. We are not designed to be finished, but to be always in process. I think of a young man who enrolled at my school in Oakland. Talented, tough with lightning, fast reflexes. I've learned all your techniques, he told me, but I still don't think like a true martial artist. I approached him, put my hand on his shoulder and asked him, when you train, what are you trying to achieve? He looked puzzled. To refine the techniques, of course. I frowned and replied, that's where you're lost. You're looking at a destination when you should be looking at a direction. The techniques are not the art. Techniques are the compass that points towards the art. The real martial artist is not one who has amassed all the movements. He or she is someone who has found his or her own expression through movement. You sense it too, don't you? That relentless pressure to arrive, to be something finally whole. Societies taught you to think that life is a string of checkpoints. Graduate, get the job, get the promotion, buy the house, achieve the body, find the relationship. Checkbox after checkbox, after checkbox, after checkbox. But I'll ask you something that no one else will. What if all the boxes are checked? What do you do when you finally reach this mythical place known as success? I'll show you what. Emptiness, a void. Because human beings are not created to arrive. We're created to journey. The instant that we quit striving towards something higher than ourselves is the instant that we start to die on the inside. This reality struck me most profoundly during my convalescence from a bad back injury. I was bedridden for months, unable to train, unable to move the way I used to. All of my dreams for myself, all of the things I'd wanted, they all seemed to wither away in the light of this new restriction. But within that darkness, something amazing occurred. Without being able to train physically, I was driven inward. I came to realize that my fixation on goals, with being the fastest, the strongest, the most technically sound fighter, had actually constrained me. I had narrowed myself to the target so that I had lost something vital, the fluidity of possibility. The injury that I had believed would annihilate my pathway actually broadened it. It made me rethink not only how I trained, but why I trained. Not only what I was headed toward, but how I moved through every given moment. Think of water for a moment. Water doesn't attempt to get to some place. Water doesn't set goals to be the ideal wave or the ideal raindrop. Water simply flows, becoming whatever shape the container that holds it is, whatever course in front of it presents itself. But in this purposeless flowing, water does what nothing else can. It cuts canyons into mountains, smooths jagged rocks into smooth pebbles, keeps all living things alive on this planet. Water's strength is not where it goes, it's where it's going, its direction, its momentum, its determination to keep flowing no matter what barriers in its path. Be water, my friend. Not because water is aware of where it is going, but exactly because it is not. It merely needs to flow. It merely needs to flow. Now, let me be clear. I'm not asking you to give up your dreams or quit making goals for yourself. Not at all. I'm asking you to make goals so inspirational, so glorious, that they can never truly be achieved. Only approached. Consider the archer. The accomplished archer is not concerned with simply striking the bullseye. She realizes that the art itself is in the drawing of the bow itself, in the sense of tension of the string, in the alignment of body and breath and will and will. The execution provides her with the direction, but the mastery occurs in the movement. This is the paradox that I'm presenting to you today. To aim with perfect accuracy at things you know can never be reached, not because reaching them is the goal, but because aiming for them changes who you are. The worst affliction of contemporary life is not failure, it's mediocrity. It's accepting goals low enough to attain, ambitions modest enough to realize, dreams safe enough to accomplish. We've been conditioned to narrow our sights to fit our perceived abilities, to create realistic goals, to be practical in our dreams. Who set the standard of what's realistic for you? Who set the limit on your potential? I wasted years being told that a Chinese man couldn't make it in Hollywood, that Eastern martial arts wouldn't sell for Western consumers, that philosophical richness couldn't coexist with physical movement. If I had accepted these realistic constraints, if I had aimed only for what appeared possible, I would be lost in the void of obscurity. Another ability smothered by others' definitions of what is possible. But I targeted something so far away. It was fantasy, to transform not only martial arts films, but martial arts themselves, to synthesize Eastern and Western philosophies, to invent something that had never been seen before. Was that goal achieved during my lifetime? No, even today, decades since my physical body departed from this planet, the goal is still moving, the vision is still growing. But that unachievable goal provided a purpose to my life that changed not only me, but millions of others who were inspired by the effort. This is the hidden strength of shooting for more than reaching. It creates momentum in your life that carries over after you're gone. It makes your life an arrow still airborne, long after the archer has laid down the bow. I want you to consider your goals. Are they places or direction? Are they goal lines you're anxious to reach, or horizons that ever expand as you approach? The one will eventually ensnare you, the other will always set you free. Let me tell you something very personal. When I originally started creating Jeet Kune Do, individuals believed I was simply establishing another style, another system to be learned and mastered. But I was not concerned with providing people with a new destination. I wanted to indicate to them a different path. Jeet Kune Do is not about piling up techniques or learning forms. It's about eliminating everything that is not necessary, freeing yourself from the pattern prison, and finding your own truth in movement. It's not a destination. It's a journey of ongoing discovery. This principle goes far beyond the world of martial arts. Consider your career, your relationships, your individual development. Are you doing them as projects that get done or as journeys that get taken? Let's take health and fitness, for instance. Most people treat it with a destination mentality. Lose 20 pounds, have six-pack abs, be able to bench press a certain amount. And what do they do when they achieve it? Usually, they slide right back to where they began, because the motivation was in the destination, not the direction. But suppose fitness were not about getting to a certain body composition. Suppose it were about moving toward more aliveness, more connection with your body, more ability to express yourself through the way you move. The goal would never end, and neither would you. Or relationships. How many come into relationships with checklist thinking? Someone who fits these criteria is at this relationship level, has this living arrangement, and then complain that the relationship stagnates, that passion disappears. They achieved the destination, planted the flag, and ceased to roam. But what if relationships are seen as boundless directions instead of reachable points? What if the goal wasn't to complete one another, but to keep finding one another? The most beautiful love stories aren't about individuals who achieved some ideal relational state. They're about individuals who kept moving toward greater understanding, increased compassion, more honest expression with each other. Now I must deal with the objection currently taking shape in your mind. You're saying, but without concrete, attainable goals, how do I know if I'm making progress? How will I be able to tell if I'm succeeding? This is the cry of a goal-grasping culture speaking out through you. We've been taught that only what can be measured is significant, that only what is physical and tangible amounts to success. But the greatest changes in life frequently cannot be quantified in traditional terms. How do you measure becoming more compassionate? How do you map becoming more compassionate? How do you map becoming more authentic? Do you quantify the growth of your consciousness? These are journeys that have markers, to be sure, but their worth is not in arriving at a destination point. It's in the quality of movement towards something that's constantly unfolding. I'll share with you my training methodology. I never had my mind set on how many punches I was going to throw per second or how much weight I was going to lift, although sure enough, I did measure those things. My real focus was on the quality of each practice moment. Was I being present? Was I being myself authentically? Was I breaking past where I used to be, even if by a small margin? These questions kept me headed in a direction, not the place. And ironically, by keeping my eyes on the direction instead of fixating on destinations, I went further and faster than all those others who were so intent on certain achievement markers. When your eyes are perpetually on the scoreboard, you lose sight of the game itself. And it's in the game, in the playing, the practicing, the process, that the true transformation occurs. This is a personal reality I didn't often speak about in interviews. There were times, even at what the world would measure as the pinnacle of my success, that I felt like a complete failure. Not because I had not accomplished all that was possible, but because I knew that what I was really trying to get at could never find full expression in a film, a book, or a protest. The vision always outran the execution. This disparity tormented me for a long time. I would lie awake at night, tormented by the chasm between what I could imagine in my head and what I could bring into being in the world. But I eventually realized that this chasm was not my nemesis. Rather, it was my fuel. The simple fact that I was able to imagine more than I could presently produce meant that I was alive, developing, changing. If I ever came to the place where my execution exactly aligned with my vision, it wouldn't be success, it would be the end of growth. This realization changed how I did everything. I ceased to regard my goals as fixed destinations and began to regard them as moving horizons, always providing direction, never permitting arrival. And within that transition, I found freedom I had never known before. The freedom from the tyranny of completion. The freedom to stay always in process, always in discovery, always in evolution. This is the freedom I'm giving you today. Not freedom from effort, but freedom from the delusion that effort is supposed to conclude. Not freedom from objectives, but freedom from the constricting thought that objectives are supposed to be endpoints instead of infinite directions. Think of the best artists, scientists, thinkers, and makers of change throughout history. Did Leonardo da Vinci ever paint the perfect painting to satisfy him from continuing to paint? Did Einstein ever find the last theory to explain everything about the universe? Did Gandhi achieve a point of total non-violence that needed no further refinement? No. What made these people great wasn't that they ended up at final destinations. It's that they traveled with such purpose in the directions that beckon them, that their energy still affects us centuries later. They knew, perhaps instinctively, that the destination was never the goal. It was to journey with purpose, presence, and passion. Let's make this real. How do you shift your relationship with goals from a destination orientation to a direction orientation? First, you need to understand the difference between targets and ceilings. Targets are precise outcomes that concentrate your energy and effort. Finishing a project, acquiring a skill, reaching a quantifiable outcome. These are real and useful. But they are prisons when you think they're ceilings, to the limits of what can be done, or the termination of what's worth doing. The master archer strikes the mark, and never for a moment thinks the bullseye is the ceiling on archery. A new, more difficult target simply awaits every bullseye. Each success isn't an ending, it's a beginning. Second, practice what I refer to as horizon thinking. As you commit to a goal, ask yourself straight away, and then, what will be possible once I've achieved this? What new possibilities will become available? How will this success continue rather than end my journey? This mindset keeps you from viewing goals as endpoints and instead reorients them as passages, not destinations to arrive at, but edges to cross into new landscapes of potential. The black belt is not the culmination of martial arts training. It's the foundation for more profound learning. The promotion is not the end of your professional development. It's the launch of new capabilities for contribution. Okay. contribution. Discipline yourself to instinctively look beyond each finish line to the next race it qualifies you to participate in. Third, love process more than outcome. This is the toughest adjustment, particularly in a results-driven culture, but also the most freeing. When you get true pleasure and satisfaction from the practice itself, the daily work, the step-by-step gains, the times of breakthrough and the times of struggle, you break free from the emotional roller coaster of destination attachment. Your joy is no longer held captive by arriving at certain destinations, since you have realized that the real reward lies in the goodness of your movement, not your arrival coordinates. I did not go on training 8 hours a day because it would finally culminate in some ultimate state of martial excellence. I trained because the training itself was the affirmation of my aliveness, my dedication to expansion, my love affair with the art of movement.
The fourth practice is perhaps the most counterintuitive. Celebrate incompletion. We've all been trained to appreciate completion, bringing things to a close, tying them up with a bow. But what if the richest possible state is not completion, but lovely incompleteness? What if leaving unfinished things in your work, your development, your artistic expression isn't a weakness, but an asset, a portal, rather than a deficit? I never finished the ultimate book on Jeet Kune Do. I never made the ideal movie that exactly conveyed my vision. Never built the complete training system that reflected all that I learned. And I'm thankful for these incompletions because they allowed room for continuation, for others to extend upon, for the concepts to stay alive instead of becoming monuments. Don't be afraid to leave things incomplete. Afraid to leave things incomplete. Be afraid only to finish things in ways that close up instead of opening up possibilities. Now, I want to speak to something of huge importance. This direction over destination way of thinking is not about dumbing down or settling for okay. Not at all. When you focus on direction over destination, you actually liberate yourself to go for excellence more genuinely and with greater longevity. Why? Because you're no longer acting for a finish point. You're reflecting a commitment to development that never runs out. The martial artist who trains to win a particular tournament will either lose and possibly quit, or win and possibly plateau. Simple. But the martial artist who trains to continually develop in the direction of mastery, with tournaments as milestones along the path rather than ultimate destinations, will neither be devastated by defeat nor hampered by victory. Their benchmark is not set on a specific result. It is in the excellence of their practice, the purity of their process, the authenticity of their expression. This leads to an important point: the distinction between goallessness and directionlessness. When I write, a goal is not always meant to be achieved. I am not advocating wandering aimlessly in life, with no intention or purpose. Directionlessness is death while living. What I'm arguing for is objectives that provide direction without guarantee of arrival, North Stars that chart your course, without suggesting that they are destinations on which you can stand. The best objectives aren't destinations you arrive at. They're pulling forces that draw you into increasingly larger versions of yourself. They're not about gaining or attaining something out there. They're about becoming something in here that continuously creates new possibilities for expression. I've been observing you as you listen to these words. I can feel the recognition in your eyes, the gentle nodding of your head. You already know this truth, don't you? Somewhere under the layers of conditioning, outside of the achievement metrics your society has trained you on, there's a part of you that's always known the pleasure isn't in the arriving, it's in the becoming. Consider the moments in your life when you felt most alive. Felt most alive. Were they the moments of completion, of checking boxes, of finally arriving somewhere? Or were they moments of growth, of breakthrough, of breaking out of old constraints and entering new arenas? I'll bet they were, because humans are not supposed to be completed projects. We're supposed to be in-progress developments. Not nouns, but verbs. Not static things, but dynamic processes. Let me give you a training method that changed my practice. One that encapsulates this direction. Nim, I refer to it as intelligent pressure. Instead of establishing strict repetition targets, performing precisely 100 push-ups or 50 kicks, I would pledge to keep going until I could no longer hold correct form, then perform one more. Not one more with subpar technique, but one more with the outright refusal to abide by current limitations. This method meant that on some days I performed fewer repetitions than others, but each and every repetition was significant, deliberate, and development-inducing. The objective wasn't the quantity. The objective was the direction toward greater strength, endurance, and technical accuracy. And since the target consistently shifted to my current ability, I never arrived at a destination. There was always one more quality repetition available, beyond what I thought I could perform. You can bring smart pressure to bear in any corner of your life. In your job, it is about extending yourself just past where you are right now, but not so far that you don't maintain quality. With relationships, it is engaging in conversations a little more open and vulnerable than is comfortable, but not so open that you aren't safe. In artistic endeavors, it equates to trying expressions a little higher than your level at the moment, yet not so lofty that you discourage yourself. The point is discovering that point of productive pressure where you stretch without causing harm or withdrawal. Stay, but causing harm or withdrawal. That way, you're always working toward more capacity without getting stuck on reaching some supposed last point of accomplishment. But I do want to mention something. This journey is not simple. To be drawn to horizons that always recede further as you reach them takes great spiritual strength. There will be times when you are tempted with the false comfort of arrival, when you will yearn for the illusion of completion. In those times, recall that the deepest peace is not achieved by arriving at stagnant destinations. It is found in living your daily steps in accordance with your innermost values and highest vision. It is found in trusting that every step, win or lose, is a genuine expression of who you are and who you are emerging. The martial artist does not achieve peace by being the victor in a specific bout. They achieve peace in understanding that, win or lose, they gave their art with integrity and presence. I promised you at the start that what I was going to tell you could potentially change everything you believed about the pursuit of greatness. This is the revolutionary truth. Greatness isn't something you achieve. It's something you're moving in with such faith that it draws other people into its flow. The truly great ones of the past didn't attain some ultimate state of completion or perfection. They moved with such direction, purpose, and integrity in significant directions that their movement generated slipstreams for other people to follow. Their greatness was not in their coming, but in the quality and impact of their movement. So is yours. Your greatness will not be defined by how you finish, what you accumulate, or what you accomplish. It will be defined by the directions you take and the way you move within them. How your journey creates possibility for yourself and for others. Now that our time together is coming to a close, I want to leave you with a challenge of my own. One that may just revolutionize the way you live and experience every moment of your life. For the next 30 days, I don't want you to ask yourself, have I achieved my goal anymore? Instead, ask yourself, am I moving in a direction that expands, not contracts me? Stop measuring your days by what you get done and begin to measure them by the quality of your movement. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Were you in your presence? Were you you? Were you brave? Were you kind? Did you stretch past prior limits? Did you speak up instead of putting on a show? These are not questions about endpoints, but about the authenticity of direction. Over the next 30 days, I'd like you to take one goal in each of the primary domains of your life: career, relationships, health, personal development, and mindfully shift it from being a destination to being a direction. Replace lose 20 pounds with move steadily in the direction of enhanced vitality and functional strength. Replace get the promotion with build leadership abilities that add value independent of title. Replace find the ideal partner with become the sort of person who can maintain real growth promoting relationships. This slight reframe from fixed destinations to growth-oriented pathways will unleash vast amounts of energy and creativity that get stifled when we get wedded to end goals. And in the course of these 30 days, practice something I call directional celebration. We've all been trained to celebrate only when we arrive at places, get the project done, meet the number, reach the milestone. I want you to start celebrating quality movement in important directions without arriving. Celebrate the day you took the hard conversation over easy evasion. Praise the exercise in which you remained engaged with discomfort instead of escaping. Praise the taking of creative risk even before seeing the results. This is not an excuse for handing yourself participation awards for doing the bare minimum. It's about praising the bravery, dedication, and excellence with which you approach the process itself. Understanding these are the only metrics that truly matter for a life well lived. Keep in mind, my friend, that a target is not always intended to be hit. Rather, it is frequently simply something at which to aim. The strength is not in the target, it's in the aiming. It's in the care of your focus, the sincerity of your effort, the integrity of your expression as you approach something that means a great deal to you. I spent my life pushing the boundaries of human potential, and I can assure you with complete conviction, there's no destination at the end. There is only the unfolding journey of becoming. And true mastery is not in getting somewhere. It's in embodying complete presence, purpose, and authenticity with every step on the path. The top of that mountain up in the distance? It's not something you're supposed to conquer. It's designed to be ascended. And when you get to what you believed was the top, you'll find it was only a plateau, and new heights now visible, which were not seen from the bottom. This is not a defeat of accomplishment. It's the beautiful blueprint of development, the horizon which appears to promise destination. It will always draw back as you get closer, opening up new lands, new horizons, new paths to follow. This is not a heartless joke of life. It's the glorious promise that you'll never be done, never be finished, never be condensed into a last version. You will always be in process, in motion, in becoming. Be water, my friend. Not water that tries to get to an end point, but water that gets strength and meaning from the flowing itself. Water doesn't attempt to arrive. It just keeps going, flowing, changing, cutting new paths where previously there had been none. Your visions, your goals, your deepest desires. And those aren't destinations to arrive at and leave behind. They're North Stars that inform your movement, providing direction and sense to each step of the way. Strive for them with all you've got. Press toward them with unmitigated dedication, but never fall into the trap of believing they are destinations. They are gorgeous, vital illusions that draw you on into ever-broadened iterations of yourself. Now go. Move, express, become, not towards completion, but towards continuation, not towards perfection, but towards authenticity, not towards arrival, but towards unending discovery. The biggest journey isn't the one that leads to victory. It's the one that keeps going beyond what anyone, not even yourself, determined was possible. An objective isn't necessarily intended to be achieved, but the path it sets forth will lead you where you never would have dreamed of going. And ultimately, that path, that ongoing unfolding of who you're becoming, is the ultimate accomplishment.